The first thing that hit the main character's eyes was the nude bodies of 3 girls. This was just a minor mishap. It's not like he was purposely peeking while they were changing. Just a few minutes ago, he was still carrying his suitcase to this shrine. This is where he'd be staying for the summer months because it's quiet and suitable for studying. At least that's how it seemed to him. But for others, this was a place to pray. He called out throughout the rooms, but no one answered. He wandered outside and heard women talking. They were discussing changing clothes, so he didn't dare open the door. How the heck did they suddenly come out naked, and then quickly slam the door shut? His nose was bleeding, but the game wasn't over. They closed the door again to change. Then, salt was thrown all over the place. They were Miko shrine maidens. They wanted to purify the pervert sitting there. After that, all 4 sat down to sort things out. This is our main character, Yule, a 17-year-old high school student, who wanted to stay here for a while because a friend of his had recommended it. This is the eldest sister, Ge, a 20-year-old college student, who, despite being the eldest, is quite childish. This is the youngest, a 14-year-old junior high school student, who has a very gentle personality and is very fond of being close to strangers. And this is the second sister, Juna, a 17-year-old high school student, the same age as the main character, who has a rather bossy and strict personality. She handles everything. Juna is very bitter that Yule dared to peek at the 3 sisters changing. How rude and shameless. But the other 2 sisters are quite friendly. They even asked the main character if he needed anything. All he had to do is say the word and they'd help. Juna objects, saying there's no way this pervert can live here, but that's exactly what Yule wants. He came here to study, not to start a family. Fine then, Juna also gave in. If he wanted to live peacefully here, he had to fix his attitude. The eldest sister, Ge, led him to a rather tidy room, but that was just on the surface. She had stuffed all her things into this closet, just opening it to get a futon. Because there were so many things piled up, they all fell down. Juna heard the noise and opened the door to see the eldest sister was shoving her breasts into the main character's face. She flew into a rage and started punching him for being such a perv. After a while, she noticed that he had calmed down and was studying as usual. A second later, the youngest sister, appeared. She wanted to be closer to him, so she came to hang out, but he immediately chased her away, making her quite suspicious. It must mean he was hiding something shady that he didn't want her to know about. So, she went through his suitcase to see if he was hiding any hentai manga. He didn't like anyone going through his things, so he went to chase her away, and he accidentally grabbed his underwear and fell on his face. The loud noise made Juna come in again, and she saw Yule lying on top of her little sister. She flew into a rage again and started punching him for being such a pedophile. He had just arrived and was already encountering all kinds of trouble. It was 1 a.m. before he finally had time to study. He went outside to wash his face to wake up a little, and saw a room with the lights still on, and when he peeked in, he saw it was Juna. She was in the middle of doing something but had fallen asleep. Afraid she'd get cold, Yule put a blanket on her. Suddenly, she opened her eyes, but didn't say anything. A few seconds later, she screamed loudly, asking what this pervert was trying to do to her. The loud scream woke up the other 2 sisters, and they saw Yule lying on top of their second sister's chest. They quickly closed the door and apologized for disturbing them. In just one night, he had already been doing indecent things to all 3 sisters. He really was lucky. For the time being, Juna just sprinkled salt to ward off the pervert. It turned out Juna was up late making these charm amulets to give to visitors. Yule thought the amulets were meaningless, bringing no benefit at all. Oh, I forgot to mention, Yule is a materialist. He has absolute faith in science, so he doesn't believe in spiritual or religious things. The 3 sisters immediately took out a strand of yarn from their hair and put their hands together to pray to the gods. They were shrine maidens, and their job was to be an indirect bridge for the gods to bless the visitors. This red string was a keepsake from their mother. Although their mother was gone when they wore it, they still felt like she was beside them. Yule also shared that he was up late studying. He wanted to get into the medical department of Kyoto University. The other 3 didn't believe it. With that perverted face of his, he dares to say he wants to study medicine. But it was okay, he was in the right place. This shrine is very sacred for academic success and exams. This time was perfect for Yule to pray. It's called the wishing on a meteor shower. Legend has it that when meteors fall in the spring, if you make a wish before they fall, it will come true. Yule immediately objected. He used science to prove that before the meteors fall, they burn up in the atmosphere. If they did actually fall, they'd crush you to death. Juna was furious that Yule dared to blaspheme against the gods. She ran out to the yard to set up an altar and stuck Yule's face on a straw doll to curse him. During the day, there were quite a lot of visitors. They believed in the gods and came to pray and receive blessings from the shrine maidens. Only the main character didn't believe it. He didn't understand why everyone was so superstitious. He saw Juna having trouble talking to a foreigner. She didn't know English, so she couldn't bless this blonde girl. Yule had to come to translate, and the girl happily accepted the lucky amulet, and then said goodbye to the sister and said she would see her again. Yule advised Juna to learn a foreign language, because the Amani shrine attracted quite a lot of foreign visitors. If there's something she didn't know, he could teach her. Juna thanked him for his kindness. Suddenly, a bird flew in and snatched Juna's red yarn. She froze for a few seconds because it was a keepsake from her mother. She needed it to feel connected to her in the other world. The three sisters searched the forest all day, but still couldn't find it. Seeing how sad she was, the eldest sister comforted her. "We'll keep looking tomorrow. The gods are always watching us, they will surely guide us." Yule found it quite annoying and sneered. "Why are you three so worried about losing something that's so important? They're not real. They're not the ones granting wishes. No matter how much you pray, it won't come true." Juna was very upset, so she didn't bother arguing with him. She turned away and said, "This shrine is not a suitable place for you to stay." Back in his room, Yule kept thinking, maybe I was too rigid about this. A while later, the eldest sister and the youngest sister came in, but he wasn't there. The eldest sister was crying so hard because he blasphemed the gods, so he was taken away by them. Ah was only concerned with his suitcase. She continued to search through it to see if he was hiding any hentai manga. Then they both noticed a photo he had put on the table. It was Yule's mother and him when he was little. She had told the eldest sister about Yule's circumstances. Yule's mother died very early, and Yule had to live in an orphanage. He used to pray to the gods every day for his mother to come back to life. But that didn't come true, so he didn't believe in the gods anymore. He only believed in himself, and if he kept working hard, he'd succeed. He wanted to go to medical school to help people with serious illnesses. Juna overheard these words and was quite touched by the truth. Meanwhile, Yule was searching in the forest. He climbed every tree to see if the bird had taken the red yarn to its nest. But after searching for a long time, with mud all over him, he still couldn't find it. In this moment of despair, he thought of praying. Maybe it would bring some miracles. Juna also unconsciously ran into the forest, and suddenly she saw Yule praying at a small shrine. He prayed that she could find her important item. Juna was happy to hear those words. She also put her hands together to pray, and apologized for saying harsh things. It seemed like he still had faith in the gods, so he was qualified to live in this shrine. The other two sisters came to eavesdrop. They joked that they didn't expect to see a young couple secretly dating in the middle of the night. After that, all four went home happily. They had asked the gods to help them find the red yarn, so they were sure they'd find it. Suddenly, a meteor shower fell, interspersed with cherry blossoms swaying in the wind, creating a very romantic scene. This was the wishing on a meteor shower that was talked about in the legends. Yule still doubted that their prayers would come true. All four were talking happily, not knowing that the yarn was right on the bird's nest. Then, a gust of wind blew it down and it landed right on Juna's head. The miracle had really happened. This is Kaidu, the head priest of the shrine. He had returned after many days of pilgrimage. He called the children together because he had something to say. It seems he was related to Yule, which was why he invited him to stay here. The main reason was that he wanted him to marry one of the three sisters, so that he wouldn't have to worry about the shrine's inheritance anymore. Yule was completely shocked by those words. He was just pretending. In reality, he was going to take all three sisters. In the second episode, all four of them strongly objected, especially Yule, because he wanted to become a doctor, not inherit the shrine. He suggested he could be a doctor and a priest at the same time, but the two sisters were okay with that. Only Juna didn't agree. Yule chased after him, yelling that he absolutely refused to agree. But he hit Yule where it hurt the most. Yule was trying so hard to get into Kyoto University, and he was going to transfer Yule to a high school with a high university acceptance rate, and yet he didn't want to be a priest. What a shame. Hearing that, Yule immediately did a 180 and agreed to his request. It was a bit sneaky and underhanded, but it was okay. As long as he could survive here for his senior year of high school, he'd be a shoo-in for university. As for the marriage, the old man would probably forget about it by then. The three sisters sat down for a meeting. Juna didn't agree with the marriage arrangement, and besides, Yule didn't believe in the gods, so how could he manage this shrine? Although the eldest and youngest sisters were very eager to marry Yule, they pretended to object to make Juna happy. So Juna proposed a solution. We'll make him leave on his own without having to kick him out. The plan was immediately put into action. Juna made Yule do housework if he wanted to stay here. First was cooking. He was not happy because it wasted his study time. When he opened the fridge, he saw only a few basic ingredients. Juna had arranged it all to see what kind of meal he would make with these simple things. The result was beyond imagination. Yule made full use of the ingredients to make an incredibly delicious meal. The three of them ate it and praised him non-stop. Just when he was about to go back to studying, he was forced to do the second job, hanging the laundry. Since there wasn't a washing machine here, hanging the laundry was very difficult. But the eldest and youngest sisters found something a bit off. Why make a boy hang girls' laundry? Then their stuff would all be exposed. If the three sisters didn't mind, why should Yule mind? He picked up each shirt and underwear and hung them up as if it were nothing. He even turned around and told the others that they should wear matching underwear instead of wearing mismatched colors. A few hours later, the clothes were dry. Yule even sorted them and folded them neatly as if they were new, and he was also very perceptive, knowing whose clothes were whose. That wasn't enough. Juna played her ace card, which was cleaning the eldest sister's room. Hearing that, Yule knew something was wrong. When he went inside, oh no, it was no different from a landfill. Why are you so pretty and nice, but you live in such a messy place? Yule didn't know where to start. His eyes were drawn to the crayons. It turned out the eldest sister had a passion for drawing and was studying at an art university. He didn't know how long it took, but the room was spotless. It was so tiring that Yule was gasping for breath as soon as he finished cleaning. The other two had to whisper to Juna, "Keep him, he's very useful." But there was no need to say anything more because Yule had given up. He didn't have the time to do housework and study at the same time. He had to make sure he passed the entrance exam for Kyoto University, so he needed more time to study. He wanted to become a doctor, not a priest to manage this shrine, so it was goodbye and see you never. The eldest and youngest sisters were very sorry, but Juna was indifferent because everything was going according to what she wanted. How the heck did he then see all three of them follow Yule onto the train? Of course, he didn't know because he was engrossed in studying. This was probably a decision from the second sister, Juna. Maybe she felt too guilty, so they were going to follow him to see if Yule was really studying and what his life would be like after he left the shrine. All his actions were being monitored. They were keeping a reasonable distance so he wouldn't notice. How the heck did he keep going deeper and deeper into the forest until they lost him at a simple-looking house that looked like an abandoned home? All three were worried because on the roof of the house, many fruits appeared suddenly. Yule appeared immediately behind Juna. She was terrified and closed her eyes, throwing salt everywhere. A lot of children followed Yule. They were even commenting, "This one has small boobs, and this one has big boobs." The three sisters were wondering when a woman came to explain. Her name was Mage, a doctor and also the one who had raised Yule from a young age. This was the nursery where children whose parents were sick in the hospital and couldn't take care of them were raised. Mage thanked the three shrine maidens for taking care of Yule for so long. Seeing how cute and beautiful they were worthy of being Yule's wives. Yule had actually decided to study medicine because Mage had inspired him since he was a child. Yule has the habit of imitating. Whatever Mage does, he does it too, without exception. Yule interrupted the conversation, saying that he wasn't going back to the shrine and that he wasn't going to marry anyone. Mage covered his mouth, saying, "If you know what's good for you, listen to me. You have to work hard to find a place to take care of you, so go back there. I'm not going to raise you here anymore." Then, a girl appeared. Her name was Ci, Yule's childhood friend. The two of them had grown up together there. The children were all folding paper cranes because they had heard that if they folded 1,000 cranes, their parents would get better. Of course, Yule didn't believe in such a far-fetched thing. It was even more useless than lucky amulets. Juna objected, saying that 1,000 paper cranes would contain more wishes. It would be more effective than the amulets. Therefore, all three decided to fold the cranes to show their respect. The children clapped and were happy. But the three shrine maidens only knew how to talk big. As for doing it, well, that was another story. Ah folded one crane. It looked like a beggar, so withered and lifeless. Juna was still in the preparation phase because she was too slow. The eldest sister, Ge, folded a pretty nice one, truly someone with an artistic soul. In the end, the children only had their hopes on Yule. They kept looking at him with pleading eyes, so he had to help. A few hours later, Yule came up with a visually stunning product. 1,000 paper cranes connected to each other with beautiful colors. Suddenly, a child doubted the wish, whether the paper cranes would help his mother get better. Seeing the child, Yule remembered his own childhood. He had folded 10,000 paper cranes for his mother, hoping that she would get better. That's why he took the paper cranes to encourage the children. This will help the doctor believe in miracles. They will do their best to save your parents. The eldest sister realized that these children were the main reason why Yule pursued medicine. He wanted to use his knowledge to help more people. After that, the three sisters played with the children all day long. Mage asked why Yule gave up on his harem. He wrinkled his face because they kept making him do housework, and he didn't have time to study. Mage analyzed it, reminding him of a memorable experience from when Yule was little. When he saw her busy with everything, he offered to help, but she refused because she wanted to do all the work herself. This memory triggered Yule's habit of wanting to follow suit, so he didn't mind doing those household chores anymore. She went on to say, "Those 3 shrine maidens followed you all the way here, proving they were worried about you. It's just that you don't know how to communicate. That's why it turned out like this. They didn't have any bad intentions." Then she wished him luck and let him think about himself. The 3 sisters were eavesdropping. They knew that Yule had agreed to go back to the shrine. He went back to apologize to the 3 girls, hoping they would forgive him and let him stay. He promised to do all the work they wanted. The 3 shrine maidens also promised to help him with housework, because they were all a family. Yule was so touched that he was crying. But those 3 were good at exaggerating. They helped, but it wasn't much. When they told the eldest sister to clean her own room, she laid out a ton of manga. Her messiness hadn't changed. When they told the youngest to hang the laundry, she dropped all the clothes on the ground. Her clumsiness hadn't changed either. When they told the second sister to cook breakfast, it was noon, and she was still preparing the ingredients. Her slowness hadn't changed either. Yule was dying inside a little bit. In the end, everything came back to him. What are those 3 even good for? He just asked that question when the head priest came in to announce something important. To strengthen the feelings between all 4 of them, he wanted Yule to participate in a simulated marriage game with each of the granddaughters. Episode 3. Today is the first matchmaking session with the youngest sister, Although it's just a simulation, she's very excited. Since there were only 2 people in the room, got straight to the point. She started, "Look at my clothes. I've always wanted to do this with you." Yule pretended to cover his eyes, but still peeked to see what his younger sister was planning to do. Turns out, she had prepared a set of sportswear. She wanted to go jogging with him. Immediately after that, the 2 ran around the river near the house. This was A's favorite sport. She was smug, saying if she went to the Olympics, she would get the first gold medal. Yule scoffed, saying, "You're only good at talking, let's go one-on-one." But 3 hours later, he was out of breath, his face gaunt like he was about to die. After 2 more hours, he was completely defeated and sprawled out on the ground. He dragged himself to the bathroom, and surprisingly found in there. It turned out she had a habit of never closing the door when she took a bath. 5 a.m. the next day, Yule regretted oversleeping and missing his study time. It was all because made him go jogging, so he didn't have the energy to wake up to study. Just when he turned around, he saw her lying there, scaring him half to death. She came to ask him to help find her running shoes in the storeroom. Today, the 2 of them would continue their matchmaking session by jogging. The 2 went into the storeroom, which was a huge mess. Even imagined what would happen if they were locked in here. He got annoyed, and a gust of wind suddenly blew open the door, causing the latch to fall down, and so the 2 of them were actually locked inside. Suddenly, was scared and about to cry. It wasn't because she was afraid of what Yule might do, but because she was afraid of enclosed spaces. That's why she always left the door open whenever she showered. Yule stepped forward to comfort her. "If you're too scared, just hug my back." And so she hugged him tightly. He then climbed up to the attic to break the window. When the sun came out, Yule had made a huge hole in the window. He was happy and told "Wait here a minute, I'll jump down and open the door." A second later, he changed his expression when he looked outside. The attic was too high for that. If he slipped, he'd die. That's why his 1 minute turned into half an hour. But no matter what, they were both safe. He felt like this meeting went terribly. After all, was just a child. But she didn't like him thinking she was a child. He should think of her as a girl. The 2 older sisters were a bit worried because they didn't see their younger sister in the morning. They searched everywhere and finally found her here. To make things worse, then said that it was thanks to Yule that yesterday had been a memorable day for her. That dark statement made him get punched by the 2 sisters. The second matchmaking session was with Juna, who was the same age. Today, she was very obedient and polite, which made Yule afraid because he was used to her usual bossy attitude. So the 2 went together but talked awkwardly. When they saw a black cat, Juna kept waving her hands at it, making it run away. Yule thought she was afraid of cats. That's why she did that. After walking around the shrine once, Yule asked, "Hey you, please go back to being your usual self." As soon as he finished talking, Juna pinned him down and sat on top of him. She was ready to take off her clothes and do grown-up things with Yule. Even though it was a little too fast, she wanted to make a future heir for this shrine with Yule. Yule calmly rejected her offer. Juna was embarrassed by her actions, so she got angry and left. The two sisters outside were eavesdropping on everything. Actually, Juna did that because she wanted the shrine to continue to exist. But Yule wondered, there are 3 sisters here, and he can choose any of them as his wife. What makes her think he would pick Juna? Explained, Juna is willing to sacrifice her body to protect the other 2 sisters from being eaten by the perverted Yule. Yule was speechless. There's no way I can let Juna think badly of me. He asked the 2 of them what Juna's hobbies were, then went to meet her directly. A while later, they had changed clothes and were at a pet cafe. It turned out that Juna really liked cats, and whenever she saw them, she wanted to cuddle and pet them. Then she calmed down because she had played too much. She wanted to go home. What she needed to do was to keep the shrine alive, just like Yule had to study hard and become a doctor to help orphans. Yule analyzed, if you want to keep the shrine alive, you need to start with the smallest things, which is to be happy so that the other 2 sisters don't have to worry, because the 3 of you are a necessary element to keep the shrine alive. Hearing those words, Juna understood. That's why Juna unleashed all her energy. She happily played with the adorable cats. When it was time to go home, Juna bought 3 little cat keychains. She threw one at Yule as a gift to thank him for making her so happy. Then Juna made a cute face, which shocked Yule. He wasn't used to her acting like that. She got mad and sprinkled salt all over the place. She just wanted to be gentle for one day, but it was impossible. The 3rd day was the matchmaking session with the eldest sister. But after waiting for half an hour, she hadn't come down. He decided to go to her room to call her. When he opened the door, he saw she was changing her clothes. Yule's eyes were drawn to her boobs, which made his nose bleed. He quickly closed the door and waited outside for her. But an hour went by and she still hadn't come out. How long did it take to change clothes? He covered his eyes and went back in, but she wasn't there. The room was empty, and she didn't have her phone either. Yule immediately told the other 2 sisters. Juna panicked, saying the gods had taken her eldest sister away. After searching for a while, Yule figured out where she had gone. He based it on a picture in her room, which was of a torii gate, but she hadn't finished drawing it yet. He guessed correctly that she had gone there to continue drawing. She apologized for not doing the matchmaking session, because she didn't think Yule would be interested in such a simulation. Feeling a bit guilty, she decided to continue the matchmaking session there. The 2 went all over the shrine, taking pictures, praying, and then buying souvenirs. In the evening, she gave him a lucky amulet and advised him to keep it well, because he didn't know when bad luck might strike. Then she thanked Yule for finding her. After 3 matchmaking sessions, she analyzed each of her sisters. Juna was a bit bossy, but sometimes she was also very cute. Was so cute she was going to faint, and she was trying to be more grown-up than she looked. She wondered who Yule would like, or maybe he liked her too. Yule was very troubled. He liked them all, but he could only choose one of the 3. Because she kept getting close, Yule backed away, but there was a step behind him, which made him fall backward. The eldest sister quickly grabbed the lucky amulet, but it wasn't strong enough to hold them both. Yule was falling down the steps. His future flashed before his eyes. He would stay at the shrine until he passed his university entrance exam. Then he would get his medical degree and officially become a doctor. Finally, he would marry all 3 sisters, all 3 of them. Wait, Yule woke up with a start. Was it all just a dream? But the surprising thing was that the broken lucky amulet was on the table. As soon as he woke up, Yule immediately took the amulet and asked the eldest sister. What happened? She confirmed that the 2 of them had gone out together, but falling down the stairs didn't happen. Before he could even ask more, Juna came to pat him on the shoulder. She told him to go buy some sweets to treat guests. In a few hours, a very important person would be visiting the shrine. A while later, they were sitting in the reception room, but the 3 sisters didn't dare to say a word. Because this was Mage, an investor who had been funding the shrine's operations until now. He was here to check the shrine's annual revenue. It had dropped terribly since the 3 sisters' mother had passed away. Before, when she was here, the shrine's revenue was quite impressive. Whenever there was a festival, it would attract thousands of visitors every day. But now, there were 3 shrine maidens, and the number of visitors had decreased by 1/3. Mage thought this business was losing too much money, so he decided to sell this shrine to another investor. He was quite kind, leaving the house for the 3 sisters to live in. The 3 sisters were upset and angry, but they couldn't do anything because what he said was true. Suddenly, Yule spoke up. If we attract 5,000 visitors to the upcoming festival, will you change your decision? Maimon laughed mockingly. Don't talk big, kid. You can't even get 1,000 visitors, let alone 5,000. All of them suddenly knelt down and begged Maimon to change his mind, that they would definitely make it happen. Seeing that, he gave the family one last chance, but with one condition: he wouldn't provide any more money, they would have to raise it themselves. If it all failed, he would take the house and kick all three sisters onto the street. No matter how they looked at it, this deal was very disadvantageous, but the whole family agreed, because there was no other option. As soon as he left, Yule ran back to his room. He went online to research the shrine's revenue from previous years. After staying up all night, he came up with a solution to save the shrine. Usually, festivals have many food and entertainment stalls. What they needed to do was to contact those people, asking them to come back to the shrine to sell things. But the three sisters didn't know anything. Since their mother's death, their contacts were gone. It didn't matter. Yule had a backup plan, which was to use social media to attract more people to the shrine. Nothing to it. The three sisters already had a website for the shrine, but when Yule opened it, it was strange. It looked like a maze. Yule suggested the three sisters be the center of attention, not the shrine. The youngest took on the responsibility of being the public face. She created a new Facebook account and posted a sexy picture of herself, and got 1 like. That wasn't good, so she posted a picture of the second sister, and got 2 likes and 5 followers. The youngest thought there was potential, so she posted a picture of the eldest sister with her hot body. But it backfired, losing all her followers and not getting a single like. The two had to quickly delete it and think of a different plan. The youngest still firmly believed that she needed to dress more revealing to attract more people. The second sister slammed her hand on the table, objecting that as shrine maidens, they shouldn't reveal their bodies like that. It was disrespectful to the gods. The youngest got angry and yelled back, "We're grown up, you don't need to teach me that. The gods aren't important anymore. People don't come here to worship, there has to be something to attract them." The two sisters kept arguing back and forth, and Yule didn't know how to deal with it. Luckily, the eldest sister walked by and played the saxophone, which made the two of them stop. While they were eating dinner, they didn't say a word. Yule knew this wasn't good. That evening, Yule went to Juna's room to advise her to make peace with her younger sister. In reality, she only wanted the best for her, so she listened. Juna ran in to embrace her in a warm hug. That's how the two sisters quickly made up. The eldest sister also came along to celebrate. Yule stood there and captured this moment to post it on Facebook, and it was actually effective, getting 35,000 likes. So the three sisters ventured into becoming TikTok idols, popularizing the customs of the shrine maidens in the shrine for more people to know about. The attention increased day by day. Yule immediately switched to the second step, which was to create a limited edition lucky amulet. Only those who participated in the festival would be able to get one. The eldest sister took on the task because she had an artistic soul. Yule gave her 2 days to draw a design, and then he'd take it to be printed. But 2 days later, Yule's throat was hoarse and the eldest sister still hadn't submitted the design. She opened her door, her mouth still half open from sleep, and asked for an extension until tomorrow. Yule agreed. But back in his room, he couldn't sleep. In the middle of the night, he ran over to the eldest sister's room to see how far she had gotten. But when he opened the door, Yule was shocked. The eldest sister wasn't in the room. She had gone to the lake to feed the fish. 2 fish were kissing, and it seemed so cute to her. Suddenly, she had an idea. The amulet had to be designed with a picture of a fish. The next morning, Yule's eyes were dark like a panda because he had to stay up all night to design the lucky amulet. If he let the eldest sister do it, it wouldn't turn out well. But the other 2 sisters didn't like it. It looked more like a charm to ward off evil than a lucky amulet. At the most desperate moment, the eldest sister shouted that she had finished it. It was a pair of koi fish kissing, forming a heart shape. It symbolized love, wealth, and success. Yule sighed in relief. That was close. Thanks to TikTok and Facebook, the shrine had attracted a large number of followers, but it still wasn't enough. Yule made the final move of his marketing campaign. He didn't say anything. He kept it for the next day. He took all 3 sisters directly to the advertising companies without an appointment. Yule earnestly begged for their help. "We need to attract 5,000 visitors to the upcoming festival, or else we'll lose the shrine. We don't want that to happen. We hope that you will have mercy on us and help us." After that, all 4 bowed down sincerely to thank them and waited for a miracle. In reality, those people were discussing that festival. It was linked to memories from their youth. Especially that shrine. Someone had gotten married there, someone had found love there, and someone had reconciled with their family there. Especially, they still remembered the image of a shrine maiden from the past. That was the mother of these three sisters. They were just waiting for someone from the shrine to ask for help, and they were ready to help. Yule didn't expect things to progress so well. The advertising discussion went quite smoothly, and the three sisters were happy because the shrine was about to be revived. Episode 5. The day of the festival arrived. Yule and the girls were ready to attract visitors to the shrine, specifically 5,000 or more. However, as time passed, only the wind carrying fallen leaves came instead of visitors. They guessed that something was wrong. Just then, ran up with her phone, showing them a fake account spreading news that the festival had been cancelled. Juna suggested warning people about the fake news, but their accounts had been blocked because they were mistaken for fake accounts. Meanwhile, Maimon was rejoicing at the success of his plan, intending to teach the shrine maidens a lesson. At the shrine, Yule and were cursing Maimon, knowing that only he would do something like this. How can he be so cruel? Juna reminded everyone of all the efforts they had put into the festival, a festival that could not be ruined by a man with such an ugly heart. Although feeling terrible, Yule reassured the girls that it wasn't over yet. After reviewing the festival schedule, Yule suggested they focus on the afternoon activities to attract the attention of visitors. He revealed a plan to attract a crowd of men, making the girls worry about potential trouble. The head priest Kaidu happened to overhear and agreed that it was a good idea. The stall owners were also willing to help. That's why Yule quickly grabbed a pile of flyers and started handing them out. While the girls wondered if the gods would blame them, Kaidu reassured them that the most important thing is to have fun with the gods. The stall owners also agreed and decided to share the joy with the girls. Meanwhile, Yule was trying to hand out flyers, but the image of a man wearing clothes as if he had just stepped out of the bathroom made people avoid him. He didn't seem to attract anyone. Just then, his foster mother Mahai appeared and helped him hand out flyers more effectively. A little later, Siai and the kids also came to help. When Yule asked why they had come, Mahai replied that they had heard that the shrine maidens were having trouble attracting visitors, and she guessed that Yule would try to solve it by himself. Everyone gathered to cheer Yule on and agreed to stay and help. They finally handed out all the flyers and attracted a significant number of visitors for the main event. Immediately after, the shrine maidens appeared on a parade float wearing traditional robes, dancing and waving. The crowd decided to stop and join the festival because of the cuteness of the shrine maidens. Maimon was disappointed when he saw this scene, as his plan had failed. With such a large crowd gathered, Yule believed they would finally achieve their goal of 5,000 visitors. However, a sudden downpour forced everyone to find shelter, making the festival seem deserted. Hearing on the radio that the rain could last, Yule looked discouraged as he looked at the counter for the number of visitors. Although the girls advised Yule not to go out in the rain to avoid catching a cold, he still decided to prepare for the festival, even if no one was watching. Despite the bad luck, the girls still believed that the gods would not turn their backs on them and would definitely help them. They went together to the altar to pray, hoping that the gods would help the festival succeed. When the storm ended, Yule noticed a miracle taking place. The girls quickly ran after him, worried that he was not okay, and Yule pointed towards the lake. The scene was like something out of a fairy tale, making him think that it could really be a miracle. Immediately after that, the girls performed a traditional dance in the middle of the lake amidst the blooming cherry blossoms. The audience watched in amazement as the girls danced fluidly and in unison. Some people even shared the moment on TikTok, live streaming it. After ringing the bell for a while, the performance ended with a bow to the audience, who clapped enthusiastically. When the cherry blossoms fell, it added more charm to the festival. Juna was happy that a miracle had happened. Seeing a large number of attendees, pointed out that this had really become a koi pond of love, just like her mother used to tell stories about. As everyone continued to admire the scene, felt a longing for the days when her mother was still around and was encouraged to do better in her role as a shrine maiden. Finally, Juna suggested that they bring more people to the shrine to have fun with the gods and develop this sacred place. Everyone was very excited about this year's festival. The love amulets that the eldest sister designed immediately became a hit. Yule managed the shop alone and found it very dry, so Mahai appeared again to help him. Yule thanked her for her help. Mahai said that she had always wanted to cosplay as a shrine maiden, but mainly she was happy that many people were able to participate in the festival. Yule complained, "Since coming to this shrine, the girls have constantly put me into one trouble after another, so that I don't have time to study." The problem of marrying one of them was still there, which was enough to drive him crazy in a bad way. Mahai wondered, "If it's so troublesome, why do you still help them?" Yule explained, "I saw that the three of them had worked so hard but had not achieved results. It's a waste. Another customer came, and Yule greeted her. Mahai realized that Yule was actually enjoying his time at the shrine. After sunset, the group realized that they were missing one person, and there were only 5 minutes left. Unfortunately, there were no more visitors. Suddenly, Maimon appeared, announcing that their time was up. However, the group was surprised when Maimon said that they had succeeded and would continue to support the shrine. Maimon considered himself a tourist to make up the number of 5,000 people. He had faith that the shrine maidens would bring more visitors to the shrine. While they were driving away, Maimon boasted that they wouldn't mess around again because they owed him a favor at the shrine. Yule felt relieved that the shrine had been saved. Couldn't believe that they had actually attracted 5,000 visitors, and she burst into tears of joy that they could continue living there. Juna hugged her and admitted that she couldn't believe it either. The eldest sister, Ge, agreed and said that it was all thanks to Yule. To show her gratitude, she kissed him on the cheek, which shocked him to the core. Suddenly, Yule's nose started to bleed, and Juna immediately knew that he was thinking perverted thoughts, so she sprinkled salt everywhere to purify this pervert. Episode 6. The next day, Yule tried to study, but he couldn't as he kept remembering the kiss from Ge. He slammed his head on the desk to chase away those perverted thoughts. His nose was bleeding. He wondered if Ge really liked him. Suddenly, appeared and said that he was thinking too much and it would distract him from studying. Yule admitted that was true. So suggested finding out what Ge really thought of him. That afternoon, asked her eldest sister, "What do you think of Yule?" she said. "He's a good person." Turned around to tell him that. She confirmed that her sister only saw him as a good person, and not that she liked him. Yule tried to accept his failure gracefully. But immediately admitted that even they didn't know what Ge was thinking, and the only way to bring out her true feelings was to push her to her limits by making her run. Ge was running slower than the other two because she was carrying 2 huge melons. When Ge was exhausted, asked her again, "What do you think of Yule?" But Ge, being so tired, said that she only cared about going home and taking a bath. That's why confirmed that her sister didn't care about him. When they got home, and Ge soaked themselves together. She asked why invited her to the race. Embarrassedly asked her back, "Why did you kiss Yule? Do you actually like him?" But Ge mischievously said, "I don't want to reveal it," surprising After that, reported her failure to Yule. Yule complained, "It was a silly idea to ask a young person like you to help me. I won't think about it anymore. Thanks anyway." When Yule tried to pat on the head to show his gratitude, she suddenly stopped him and said she didn't like being treated like a child. Yule apologized for seeing her as cute, reminding him of the orphans in the orphanage. Got angry. She decided to prove that she wasn't so naive. She climbed on top of him and bit his ear. When he asked why, she wouldn't tell him and ran out of the room, leaving him with a million questions about why. The next day, Yule's eyes were dark because he couldn't sleep. He didn't understand what was wrong with those 2 sisters who kept making such seductive moves. Yule prayed that at least Juno would be normal among the 3 sisters. As soon as he stepped out, he happened to see Juna looking at him absent-mindedly, as if she was hiding something. Juna confirmed she wasn't hiding anything. Ge, who happened to be there, advised her younger sister to talk to Yule about it. But Juna didn't want to tell him because she would reveal information to outsiders. That night, Yule finished his studying without any problems. Usually the 3 sisters would come to make trouble. He quickly went outside to check in case they were kidnapped. When he stepped outside, he saw squatting in front of Juna's room. She told him to keep quiet and watch something interesting. When he looked inside, he saw Juna meticulously making an amulet. Looking at the eldest sister's room, he saw her sitting and sewing many stuffed animals. Explained, "Tomorrow is my birthday." Only then did Yule realize that the 2 sisters wanted to surprise which was why they were keeping it a secret. But knew everything because it was like this every year. She even knew that there would be something funnier later, and she told Yule to witness it with her. At midnight, Ge told Juna that her stuffed bear was so cute that would definitely like it. However, Juna scoffed and said that her lucky amulet was better. The 2 began arguing while Yule was watching. He asked if she cared about any of the gifts, but she just smiled and didn't say anything. Suddenly, the 2 sisters tripped and ruined both of their gifts. At this point, came to eavesdrop, pretending to ask what the sisters were doing, making so much noise. The 2 wished her a happy birthday and embarrassedly apologized for ruining the gifts they were planning to give her. However, appreciated her 2 sisters for putting all their attention and love into making gifts for her, and said she loved them both so much. That's why the 3 sisters shared a warm hug. Yule also stepped forward, feeling shy, and wished her a happy birthday. While the girls were going back to bed, Yule was still standing there, lost in thought. The next morning, Juna and Ge woke up, wishing they could give the gifts to Ah. But when they went to the living room, they were surprised. The ruined gifts had been fixed, and beside them was Yule, fast asleep, with drool all over his face, with a book about repairing damaged sewing on his lap. The three sisters found him so cute. Ah saw a card on the table, and when she opened it, she saw that it was Yule's birthday message for her. While he was sleeping, Yule had a dream. Juna told him that she wanted to express her gratitude. Immediately after that was a passionate kiss. Yule woke up with a start. He wondered what it meant. Then, Yule received a message from Mahai, asking if he was free. No, Ah and Ge came to Yule's room to ask for something, but he wasn't there anymore. Juna woke up the earliest, so he told her that he had gone to see Mahai. She blamed the other two sisters for being too dependent on Yule. Mahai admitted that she wanted to see his face the most. She wanted to ask about his life with the shrine girls. Yule sadly shared how it was like hell. Juna was diligent, but slow, and if he gave her a task, she would definitely not finish it. The eldest was always lazy, and Yule always had to wake her up and clean her room. And Ah was so clumsy, she couldn't do anything right. Mahai saw that Yule also had his own shortcomings, yet he was so complacent, thinking that others couldn't do anything without him. She advised him not to worry so much, to help only when people asked, and to use the remaining time to focus on his studies to achieve his dream of being a doctor. After that, Yule returned home with that determination. He wanted to become a doctor to repay Mahai for everything she had done for him since he was a child. On the way home, he saw Ge waiting for him at the entrance to the shrine. He wondered why she was there. She said that she just wanted to talk for a bit. The two went together, but she didn't say anything. The silence was frightening to Yule. Suddenly, Juna turned around and rubbed his shoulder. That would make him feel better. Yule was very confused, not understanding what was going on. She saw his shoelace was loose, so she bent down to tie it. But looking from above like that made Yule's heart race. He sat down, advising Juna not to do that again, or he wouldn't be able to handle it. In reality, Juna was only trying to express her gratitude, and didn't mean anything else. At this point, Yule remembered his dream. Everything was happening exactly as in his dream. That meant she would try to kiss him. However, Juna only thanked Yule. This made him breathe a sigh of relief. Until a girl accidentally bumped into Juna, making her lose her balance and slam her lips into his. Luckily, Yule reached out to block it in time. He backed away and realized that his dream had been right. Juna took out her bag of salt and threw it into the air because this was an accidental situation and nobody was at fault. Hearing that, Yule wasn't tense anymore, so he immediately went ahead. However, Juna thought back to the moment their lips almost touched, and she threw more salt on herself to purify the impurity in her heart. Episode 7. That night, Yule had another strange dream. He saw the girls going to a new shrine called Tsukami. In his dream, Juna became silly. Ge was completely shocked, and Ah seemed to have fainted. Finally, he saw all the girls sleeping next to him before he woke up. The next morning, during breakfast, Juna suggested that the group go to the Tsukami shrine. When Yule asked what it was, Ah explained, "It's a shrine in Amma. The owner of this shrine used to teach the three sisters how to be shrine maidens. Now, they need her help again." Yule remembered his dream and immediately refused. He went back to his room to find a way to prevent his dream from coming true. Suddenly, Kaido came into his room and told Yule to bring an important item to the Tsukami shrine. Not long after, Yule was driving to the shrine with a mysterious box. When he arrived, he realized that changing the future was not as easy as he thought. After delivering the box, the girls were worried that it might contain an evil spirit. However, Miko, who was introduced as the head priestess of the shrine, and also the teacher of the three shrine maidens, opened the box. It turned out to contain only matcha cakes, making Yule secretly curse the old man Kaido for being a fraud. Zomo placed the cakes on the table for everyone to enjoy. Yule continued to watch her carefully. While eating, Zomo explained that the Tsukami shrine was dedicated to the moon god, who guides people away from worries toward light and hope. Juna added that the Tsukami shrine could make dreams come true, but that was just a legend. According to the story, on a full moon night, if you walk across a rainbow illuminated by the moonlight, your dream will come true. After that, the girls shared that they were having difficulties because the number of visitors to the shrine was increasing, so they needed advice from Miko. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she commented on each of the girls in turn. She praised Ah for becoming prettier, and then told Juna to stop calling her master, because it didn't sound cute. She should just call her by her name. Then she checked the boobs of the eldest sister, Ge, to see if they were still juicy, making Yul wonder if she was normal. After that, Zomi announced that she had booked a hot spring inn for everyone to relax. The girls were happy with the idea of soaking themselves to wash away their worries. On the way to the inn, Yul saw a group of shrine maidens lining up. Zomo explained that this was a daily ritual to show gratitude to the gods. Yul, even if he didn't want to admit it, had to agree that Zomo was very good at managing the shrine. Ah comforted the girls that their shrine would soon become amazing like this. Hearing this, Zomo rewarded her with loving head pats. Before Zomo sent them off to the inn, Yul asked why she had avoided the girls' questions at lunch. Zomi praised Yul for noticing. It was because she didn't want to give them advice when it was something too much for them to handle. When the girls tried to object, Zomo asked if they were really ready to dedicate their whole lives to the shrine. She pointed out that Ah and Juna were preparing for their school entrance exams, while Ge needed to start thinking about her career path after graduating from college. She reminded them that they only lived once and advised them to figure out what their real dreams were. Hearing this, Juna insisted that she was willing to dedicate her life to her family, visitors to the shrine, and the gods, while begging Zomi for help. However, Zomi said that responsibility alone was not enough. Ah tried to reassure her that they were now official shrine maidens, but Zomi replied, if that's true, they shouldn't need help from her. Hearing that, Ge couldn't say anything. At that point, Yul said that she was being too cold to the girls. He blamed her because she didn't understand how much they loved the shrine, even though she had known them longer than he had. At this time, Zomi reminded him that he would also have to marry one of the 3 shrine maidens so that the shrine could continue to exist. She asked if he had really thought carefully about it. Yul was suddenly speechless. She told the group to rethink their future plans and give her an answer the next day. After that, Yul and the girls sat sighing in front of the shrine. Ge suddenly disappeared, as usual, going somewhere alone. Next, Yul said that he also had to leave to study. He revealed that he had absolutely no intention of taking over the shrine and started to leave. Suddenly, Juna suddenly collapsed. Yul tried to ask what was wrong, but he saw Juna's pale face, which was exactly the same as in his dream. Meanwhile, Zomo called a mysterious person and said that Yul was just as they had described, while also promising to determine which girl could take on the responsibility of managing the Amigami shrine in the future. Back at the shrine gate, Ah guessed that her sister Juna was sad because she was scolded. Yul suggested that their eldest sister would be the best person to talk to Juna, but she had run off somewhere again. Hearing that, Ah turned on her demon mode to go look for her eldest sister. She asked him to take care of her second sister. Yul asked her if she was okay, but Juna started repeating her catchphrases like a broken robot. Finally, she woke up and told Yul not to worry. Then Yul offered her a canned bowl of red bean soup, but Juna dropped it when she heard him say that he bought it to tease her, causing her to become depressed again. Yul tried to comfort her, reminding her that she really wanted to become a shrine maiden and had already worked so hard. But Juna admitted that she was only doing what people expected of her, and she herself didn't care about what she wanted. Yul went to get another can of soup, and saw that Zomi was secretly watching Juna. She quickly hid and pretended that she was just going for a walk. But when Yul turned back to his seat, Juna had disappeared. He searched the entire shrine and finally found her at the edge of a waterfall, looking pale. He realized that she intended to do her training under the waterfall and reminded her that she would get all her clothes wet and it was very dangerous. Hearing this, Juna took off her pants and continued to walk forward, but Yul held her back. Juna begged him to let go, and they wrestled until Yul accidentally touched Juna's boobs. She immediately flew into a rage and scolded Yul. After that, Yul apologized and said that he only wanted to help. Juna blamed him that if he didn't intend to marry into her family, he shouldn't go around helping at the shrine and neglecting his studies. Yul also got angry, saying that he didn't help others just to make himself feel better, but because it was what he wanted to do. This surprised Juna, and she laughed at how pathetic he was. She remembered the time with Zomo and realized that she didn't need to be sad anymore. It was all thanks to Yul, and it was this teasing that helped Juna regain her confidence. Episode 8. Ah returned after her jog and was happy to see her sister Juna was no longer sad. Yul asked if she had forgotten to look for their eldest sister. Ah dodged the question by teasing him, saying that he was in love with their eldest sister. Juna also joined in, making Yul's face turn red, and he ran away. That night, Yule found GE by the river thanks to a dream. GE asked why he was looking for her. He said that girls could be in danger being alone at night. GE was touched, while Yule was shy and tried to focus on his studies. GE came closer and pointed out that he had made a mistake in a question. Yule watched her do math in her head and realized she was right. He wondered how she could be so talented and so ignorant at the same time. GE simply replied that she had been taught many things when she was young. Then she listed the things she had learned, such as flower arranging, tea ceremony, and martial arts. Yule saw that she had many choices for the future, but she wondered whether she would become a designer, a mathematician, or a poor housewife who married and managed the shrine. After teasing Yule, she suggested they go back. Suddenly, a gust of wind carrying dust swept by, making GE sway. When she opened her eyes, she saw that she was sitting on top of Yule. Seeing him sneeze, she had to take him home quickly, or he would get sick. A little later, Yule soaked himself in the hot springs and wondered how his dreams kept coming true. Juna was wondering why Yule was bathing in the three sisters' bathroom. GE explained that the public bathrooms were all closed, so there was nowhere else. Then she asked Juna what had happened with Yule, as she looked so happy now. The question made Juna think back to the scene of her boobs getting touched, and she blushed, using buying snacks as an excuse and leaving. After that, Ah suggested that the eldest sister could bathe with Yule as a way to apologize. So the eldest sister was immediately at the bathroom door offering to come inside. Hearing that, Yule imagined a scene of the eldest sister doing inappropriate things with him in the bathtub. Luckily, Yule snapped out of that thought and found a place to hide. When GE went in, he only managed to grab a potted plant nearby. GE realized Yule had misunderstood her and called him a pervert for imagining that dark scenario. After that, Yule tried to finish reading his book, while GE looked at the vending machine nearby. 30 minutes passed, and Yule finally finished reading, while GE was still standing in place. When he asked why she was still there, she explained that she was having trouble deciding which drink to buy because she didn't know what she wanted. This made GE remember a memory from the past, when a woman told her that she didn't need to make any decisions because her life was already decided for her. It made GE confused when having to make a decision. Until Yule randomly picked a drink and gave it to her. He realized that she had been hiding her confusion and worry for so long and offered to help her whenever she was lost. As Yule turned away, GE thought about how sweet he was and threw the drink on his kimono. When Yule asked why she did that, she said that she would decide her life on her own, and she didn't need him to worry about it. And she would buy another drink, choosing what she wanted. She reminded him that he was still just her younger brother, and shouldn't act like a know-it-all. When it was time to go to bed, Ah seemed to suggest that Yule sleep with her. Juna strongly objected. "Why are you letting this pervert sleep with us three sisters?" Hearing that, Yule suggested that he would sleep in the drawer. Suddenly, Yule mentioned the conversation about dreams with Zomi the next day. He wondered what the three sisters really dreamed of. The girls felt worried, but Yule reiterated that he was also a member of the family, so he had the right to know. But the eldest sister didn't want to tell, and instead invited the group to have a pillow fight. A battle that lasted for hours. After that, Yule woke up to find that GE and Juna were lying next to him, exactly like in his dream. He hoped that nothing would happen. Just as he stepped outside to get some air, he suddenly saw Ah staring at her phone. He suddenly spoke, surprising her and making her drop her phone. Yule picked it up and saw a status message announcing that Ah had been recruited by a school in Tokyo for their relay team. Ah admitted that she had actually been recruited last year and planned to move to Tokyo alone next year. GE asked if she had told her family about leaving the shrine yet. She said only her grandfather knew, but not her two sisters. She didn't want them to worry, so she asked Yule to keep it a secret. Yule asked if she was worried that her sisters wouldn't support her, but in fact, it was the opposite. Ah knew they would support her, so she didn't want to talk to them about it. Yule called her an idiot and tried to drag Ah to her two sisters. After a few seconds of struggling, Yule fell on top of Ah. Ah quickly took many pictures and threatened to show them to the two sisters if Yule didn't keep the secret. However, Yule refused, even though his nose was bleeding when he saw Ah's cleavage. Just then, GE and Juna stepped out of the room when they heard a strange noise. This made Ah scared and run away. Juna asked Yule what he had done to make her younger sister panic. He confessed to peeking at her, so he was immediately purified by Juna with a pile of salt. After that, he told them about Ah's plan, that she would move to Tokyo to live alone next year. However, the two sisters said they already knew about it, because they didn't want to interfere in their younger sister's life. Although Ah was clumsy in everything, she was always strong and persistent, overcoming things on her own. so their job was to support her from afar. Yule wondered, what if Ah didn't really want to choose that path? Juna wasn't sure if she would actually go, and asked what her true feelings were. In reality, they would feel very lonely if Ah left the shrine. Meanwhile, Ah ran through the forest and wondered if she was repeating the past. In reality, she just wanted to become an adult. Suddenly, Yule appeared and told her to be honest with her sisters. Juna and Ge also caught up to her. Yule apologized for not keeping the secret. He remembered his own past and said that he would be very sad if she just left without saying goodbye to her loved ones. The sisters told Ah that they would support any decision she made. Then, the two sisters removed her ribbon and reminded her that the strings their mother had tied would not loosen or break, no matter how far away they were. This touched Ah, and she changed her mind, deciding not to go to Tokyo. She would study at a school near home, so she could have fun with her two sisters. She wanted all three of them to always be together. Then the girls hugged each other while Yule stood watching. Ah realized that she was exhausted and fainted. A little later, she woke up on Yule's back. Ah teased Yule for understanding her feelings all this time and praised him for being a kind person. She hugged him tightly and said that she felt much better now. Episode 9. Yule opened his eyes and saw that the girls looked strangely mature. They were now adults. They repeated the promise that by tomorrow, Yule would get his medical degree and his priesthood, and he would marry all three of them. But then Yule woke up and realized that it was all just a dream. Meanwhile, Mahai met with Zomi to thank her for helping Yule find a place to stay at the shrine. Zomo confirmed that Kaido was also trying to marry off his granddaughters, killing two birds with one stone, so everything would eventually be fine. Zomo recounted the memories of 6 years ago, when she came to the Amagami shrine to offer incense after the girl's mother had passed away. When she asked Kaido about the future of the shrine, he didn't know what to do. Perhaps it would only last for a while. Suddenly, the three sisters kicked open the door and begged Zomo to accept them as her disciples, which confused her. Not long after, the girls had difficulty learning the duties of a shrine maiden. Zomo helped them learn how to bow properly at a 90-degree angle to show the best respect. Then they moved on to turning over the leaves, but Ah was especially bad. Zomo scolded her for repeating the same mistake, which made Ah sad. However, on the way home, she overheard Ah promising to try harder, and the two sisters also agreed to do their best to make her proud, and from then on, they improved. During the training, Zomo wondered if they were really happy just following in their mother's footsteps. For Zomi, those happy days passed quickly. After many years of training, the girls tearfully said goodbye to her, but she reminded them that they were still just rookies and could call her whenever they needed help. This made the three sisters realize that Zomi was like a second mother to them. In the present, Mahai was amused by hearing the story of how Zomi had trained the girls, while Yule finished hearing the story at the bar. The three girls also told the same story. They felt lonely realizing that they wouldn't see Zomi often, and wished they could have more time with her. But they also understood that she was very busy. On the other hand, Mahai asked Zomi what the real problem with the girls was. Zomo explained that Kaido had given her the task of choosing an heir to the shrine. However, she didn't want any of them to feel pressured to do that, but instead, to pursue their own dreams. She wondered if she was overstepping her boundaries by thinking like that, since she wasn't a member of the girl's family. Thinking similarly, Mahai and Yule both advised that even if they weren't blood-related, they could still become family. After that, the girls were happy again. That night, the girls agreed to meet Zomi on the bridge. Yule quietly followed and realized that everything was happening exactly like in his dream, and planned to go home after saying goodbye to Zomo. When she met the girls, Zomi said that the moonlight tonight seemed to bring blessings. Then she asked the girls about their future dreams. Yule stood there thinking about the moments that had happened that day. The eldest sister was living in her own world, while Juno was overwhelmed with the pressure and burdens she had put on herself, and Ah had given up her dream of going to Tokyo. This made him worry about their decision, until all three girls shouted that they wanted to inherit the shrine. Realizing that all three had the same thought, they started arguing, saying that they were the most worthy to stay at the shrine. Ah claimed that being with her sisters was more important, and she was the most suitable to promote the shrine. Ge emphasized that she had to make amulets and souvenirs for the visitors, so she had to stay at the shrine. Juna refused to let them do it, because it was what she wanted to do the most. Yule was amazed to realize that they all thought the same thing. Zomi asked if that was their final decision. The girls were confident in their choice. They wanted to follow in their late mother's footsteps, determined to cherish their home. After that, the girls bowed 90 degrees to ask Zomi for help. She was touched and almost cried. Yule wondered if it was wise to entrust the shrine to 3 clumsy girls, which angered the girls. But that wasn't what he meant, because he wanted Zomo to be the one to guide them. Zomo agreed and said that their decision was actually terrible because it was based on emotion rather than a concrete plan. She decided to train them again instead of hastily choosing an heir. She told them if they needed anything, they should come to her, she would guide them wholeheartedly. The girls asked if they could see her even when they weren't doing anything important, and she happily agreed. After celebrating, Zomi suddenly asked if they would be willing to marry Yule if they really wanted to inherit the shrine. All 3 of them turned to look at Yule. He remembered her warning from yesterday that the future of the shrine depended on him. This question had also been asked by Zomi to Ma-hai. Ma-hai affirmed that Yule wouldn't give up his dream of being a doctor, and not to worry, he wouldn't give a bad answer. Yule took out his phone and showed the girls pictures of the boys from the orphanage. Although they weren't adults yet, Yule said that they were the best people he could suggest as husbands for the girls. Zomo remembered what Ma-hai had said about how Yule was difficult to get close to after his mother died, and he had to live in a house full of strangers, which must have been scary. However, after overcoming this challenge, Yule would become stronger than anyone. Yule promised to support the girls' dreams in any way he could, and the girls began to discuss the candidates for their husbands. Unexpectedly, Ge said that she would still choose Yule, shocking everyone. Hearing that, Ah also wanted to choose Yule as her husband. Juna objected because she didn't want her 2 sisters to suffer. She would sacrifice herself and take on the responsibility. Because no one could agree, Ah suggested that all 3 of them marry Yule. Suddenly, a bright light surrounded the bridge, causing the girls to stagger and fall on top of Yule. He remembered the legend of the full moon, that if you walked on the rainbow light, your dream would come true. The girls started to worry that Ah's suggestion might come true. While they continued to argue, Zomi smiled, looking forward to seeing which path the girls would choose before leaving them in Yule's care. Episode 10. A few days later, Yule was anxiously preparing breakfast for the girls. Then they appeared in their pure school uniforms. The group sat down to eat together. The girls complained that spring break was over. The eldest sister asked Yule why he wasn't eating breakfast, but Yule didn't want to reveal that he found the 3 sisters looked strange today, so he changed the subject, saying that the food he cooked was delicious. Suddenly, I asked him about the school he had just transferred to. Yule couldn't remember the name and vaguely wondered if he was going to the same school as Juna. Juna reassured him that her school was only for girls, so there was no way that would happen. Yule breathed a sigh of relief that he was lucky not to be a young man in his harem. But the eldest sister casually mentioned that Juna's school was starting to integrate both genders. A little later, Yule and Juna realized that this was really a harem anime, when Yule was introduced as the only boy in the school. During the break, the girls surrounded Yule, asking all sorts of questions, like whether he was famous, whether he had a girlfriend, and asking to be friends with him online. He was so handsome. Yule tried to deal with the awkwardness and realized that Juna was staring at him with a murderous look. She signaled for him to go up there to talk. They met outside. Juna told him that he could flirt with as many girls as he wanted, as long as he didn't reveal that they lived in the same house. Yule didn't understand why they had to keep that a secret, so Juna emphasized that she didn't want any strange rumors to spread. During class, Yule tried to focus on his studies, realizing that this school was really good. When he had time, he would definitely thank Kaido. However, every time he tried to pay attention, the girls looked at him as if he were a celebrity. During the next break, a girl named Mitsuko came to Juna. She introduced herself as the class president and said that her job was to take care of Yule, the only boy in the class. Her teacher asked her to do so. Juna wasn't interested, so she left. Mitsuko commented that it was strange because Juna usually helped other people, especially new students. Yule asked if they were close, and Mitsuko confirmed that they were best friends while teasing Yule, asking if he had a crush on Juna. Mitsuko even helped by describing Juna's good qualities, that she was both good at studying and had good manners, and she was a shrine maiden, so she was very popular at school. Everything was great except that she was terrible at English. Yule knew that without being told because he had seen it before. Anyway, he was impressed that Juna was so excellent at school and yet still took care of those 2 troublemakers at home. She was really impressive. Mitsuko didn't know that the 2 knew each other from before, so she thought Yule liked Juna, so she kept babbling that if you wanted to win over Juna, you had to please her best friend first. Yule was too tired to say anything, so he decided to go to the bathroom, but Mitsuko still shouted that she would go with him for fun. When he finished his business, Yule went back to class because the next lesson was physical education. When he opened the door, he saw the girls changing clothes, This amazing scene made Yuel's nose bleed because he was so shocked. He couldn't have predicted that the school would let the students change in the classroom instead of having a separate room for that. And it would have been worse if the whole class thought he was a pervert. But the opposite of that thought, the whole class saw it as normal, except for Juna, who said that because Yuel had seen her wearing pink polka-dotted underwear. The next morning, Yuel continued to prepare lunch boxes for the girls. When they came down, Juna kept looking at him with disdain, which made Yuel worried. The girls noticed the lunch boxes that Yuel had made, and they were touched that it had been so long since they had eaten a bento box. Yuel didn't understand why they were so excited. The three sisters explained that after their mother died, they had been eating takeout for lunch. Ah bought lunch boxes at the convenience store. Juna ate senbei dango, and the eldest sister Ge only cooked white rice to bring with her. That's why Yuel offered to make bento boxes for the three of them every day, which touched the girls. A little later, Yuel went to school alone wearing his uniform pants in a sea of skirts. Mitsuko happened to see him, so she asked Yuel if he was used to it. Of course, he wasn't. It had only been one day. He looked at Juna and remembered what she said, to not talk to her at school. And so the two of them walked past each other as if they were strangers. Noticing the strange atmosphere between Juna and Yuel, Mitsuko wondered what was wrong with Juna these past 2 days. This morning she didn't even stop by Mitsuko's usual dango stall. Of course, Yuel pretended that he didn't know her, or know anything. At lunchtime, Juna showed off her bento box, which made the other girls drool. Mitsuko realized that it looked exactly like the lunchbox that Yuel was eating. This information made both Juna and Yuel worried. Yuel hoped that Juna would lie to get through it, but she had never lied before, so she kept eating. Yuel quickly ate all of his food so that no one could compare it. The girls looked at him in amusement, praising him as cute as a hamster. By the evening, Yuel apologized to Juna about the lunch boxes and offered to stop making bento for her to avoid trouble. But Juna thanked him and asked him to continue making them, just changing it a little so that no one would find out. Ah and Ge also asked him to change their lunch boxes. Ah wanted him to take out the bell peppers, and Ge wanted him to add more rice. The next day, Yuel accidentally saw the three sisters when they were walking home together. But he remembered what Juna said, not to talk to her when they were out, so Yuel kept his distance. Suddenly, a girl called him back. It was Ci, his friend who had grown up with him in the orphanage. Seeing his uniform, she knew that Yuel had transferred to a new school. She praised him for looking handsome in the uniform. Yuel wondered if her life had been good because it had been 5 years since she had left the orphanage. Ci looked satisfied, saying that her life was pretty good, and her new parents were very kind. She then commented that Yuel had changed, and was much taller than her now. Yuel also praised her for changing a lot, so she asked what had changed. Yuel looked around and didn't see anything, so he couldn't say anything. Ci let it go and felt jealous of Yuel for living in the same house as the 3 shrine maidens. I guess every day is a joy, right? But Yuel complained that it wasn't as good as it sounded. The little brat is the youngest, but she always wants to prove that she's the most mature. The eldest is always laid back and will run away whenever she has the chance. And Juna is always so frantic, and she's so strict with herself, she refuses to do anything that she wants to do. Ci didn't seem to want to hear the details, so she changed the subject. She invited Yuel to study together when he had time. Before Yuel could answer, there were cheers in the distance. It turned out that people had recognized the 3 shrine maidens, and they pulled out their phones to film and take pictures. Suddenly, a few perverts invited the 3 sisters to sing and have some fun. Yuel thought it sounded very jarring. He ignored Juna's rules and stepped forward, calling out the 3 sisters by name, mainly to warn the other 2 not to do anything stupid. Then, he grabbed all 3 sisters' hands and ran away when the traffic light turned green for pedestrians. Ci was left standing there, looking at them, not knowing what she was thinking. The 4 ran excitedly on the riverside path. Ge wondered why Yuel called out the 3 sisters' names earlier. Ah replied that he planned to woo all 3 sisters, so he called them by name when all 3 of them were off guard. Juna thought it was true and started questioning Yuel. Of course, Yuel denied that thought and the 4 of them ran home. Episode 11. That night, Yuel had another strange dream. This time, he dreamed that he was a boy helping a little girl who was lost. When he woke up, Yuel didn't know what to think about that dream. The scene shifted to a drinking party. Yuel was trying to stop Ge, because she was so drunk that she started making trouble. Yuel didn't dare to drink because he wasn't old enough yet. Juna and Ah asked him to come along as a bodyguard, because when Ge was drunk, she would turn into a loose girl who could get into trouble anywhere. Yul just looked away for a second and saw her talking to some guys at another table. Yul went over to protect her, but the three guys got angry. They asked who Yul was to dare interfere. With no other way out, Yul suddenly announced that he was GE's boyfriend. The other three didn't believe it and needed GE to confirm it. She quickly took on the role and confirmed it, breaking the hearts of the guys who thought they were about to have a chance to flirt with her. When GE's friends asked Yul what school he went to, she lied and said that he was in the medical department at Kyoto University. The girls were immediately impressed, praising him because that was a specialized school. Yul was crying because he was only in high school, and lying like this was not okay. Then, their attention shifted to Mao, a student in the same department as Yul, who was sitting next to them. To avoid being asked more questions, Yul led GE out to get some fresh air. Mao followed behind and blamed them for their silly lies. She gave GE a bottle of water to drink to sober her up. She introduced herself as GE's close friend since childhood, who knew all the truth about GE. Seeing that Mao was on his side, Yul was quite relaxed, and he reached out to greet her, but she pushed his hand away, saying that his only job was to sit there and be a dummy for GE, and that he had no right to play the part of her boyfriend. Although his self-esteem was hurt, Yul remained calm and said, yes, yes, yes to get through it. On the train home, Yul apologized to GE for calling himself her boyfriend. GE said it was okay. She was even pretending that if he were her real boyfriend, he would probably act that way, too. Hearing that, Yul asked if she had ever dated anyone before. GE admitted that she had had many boyfriends, so many that she couldn't remember their faces because there were too many. Yul knew she was just talking like a drunk person, so he offered to play the role of her boyfriend whenever she needed it. GE thanked him, but said that he wasn't big enough to make her happy, because she was talking about how the portions of food Yul cooked were too small, so she was always malnourished, not what Yul was imagining. When they got home, Yul saw that GE's wallet had fallen on the floor. This brought back memories of when he had met a lost girl. GE had bought snacks to comfort the girl, and Yul promised to pay her back by transferring the money. A little later, the girl's parents frantically ran over to pick up their daughter, and then the whole family thanked GE and Yul profusely. The reminiscence ended, and Yul opened the wallet, noticing that the ID photo was of GE, but it wasn't listed as GE Amagami, but as Jikyoi. Very confused, he went to GE's room to ask, but it was just a mess. This made Yul wonder if GE Amagami was a product of imagination, if she didn't exist at all. While he was deep in thought, he suddenly heard GE making noise outside. She was complaining to Juna and Ah about staying out late. She even asked Yul if he wanted to take a walk with her, making Yul wonder if she was still drunk. When GE insisted on going out, the two younger sisters said that they wanted to go to sleep. GE then described the unique scenery of Kyoto that they could see while eating late-night specialties. She also mentioned the Noiku Shrine, a place that shrine maidens couldn't miss. Hearing that, the two younger sisters immediately changed their minds. GE suggested inviting Mao, but Yul thought she would be too busy to join. Surprisingly, Mako appeared immediately, but she wasn't happy to see Yul. Mako insisted that she couldn't let a kid get in her car. However, when GE begged, Mako quickly agreed. Yul agreed to go along because he wanted to protect the girls. He handed the wallet back to GE, saying that there was something important he needed to ask her when they were alone. GE also said that she had something to talk to him about. Ah and Juna looked at them and blushed jealously. While they were in the car, Yul wondered how to mention that strange name while Juna and Ah were strangely silent. After a while, they arrived at the first destination that GE suggested, a place that was supposed to be full of fireflies, but it was strangely empty. While the girls went looking for fireflies, Yul tried to get GE's attention, but Mao interrupted. She suggested that they go upstream to find the fireflies, while the youngest, Ah, stayed with Yul, because she wasn't interested in childish games. The two sat there in silence. Suddenly, Ah asked him whether he liked big or small boobs. Hearing that, Yul's face turned red, and he didn't know how to answer. Ah asked again, "Which do you like more, long hair or short hair?" Yul didn't answer. He wondered, "What's wrong with you today? You're asking all these silly questions." Ah was embarrassed, so she didn't ask anymore. She wondered why she asked him to choose instead of asking if he liked GE. Looking to the side, Ah thought she saw fireflies, but it was just the reflection of the moon. Ah remembered her efforts to grow up when standing next to GE, who did it so easily. GE was like a firefly, attracting everyone with her charm. At this point, Ah suggested that they join the search for real fireflies instead of sitting there dreaming. However, Yul said that he actually liked a peaceful scene like this. Suddenly, the three sisters came back and called Ah and Yule to see the fireflies. And Ah pretended to fall asleep on Yule's shoulder so that he couldn't go anywhere. As the three sisters turned away, Ah wondered why she had acted like that and blamed it on being sleep-deprived. That was supposed to be it, but the three of them only saw one firefly, but they were all still acting like they had seen a ton. After that, the group stopped at a convenience store, and Mako offered to treat them to whatever they wanted. Yule praised Mao for being very kind and nice until Mao added that it didn't include Yule. When they went into the store, Yule texted GE to ask if they could have some private time. Then he noticed that Mako had turned off GE's phone. He realized that she was intentionally trying to sabotage his plan. At that moment, Juna said that she would pass on Mako's offer, because Juna didn't want anything to eat. But then, Yule saw Juna looking at a box of ice cream. Yule thought she was trying to be the biggest eater in the group, so he warned her that it might backfire and would make everyone unhappy. Juna immediately switched to pouting mode and went outside to be a silly girl. Next, Juna went to the IT product section, but still couldn't choose anything, remembering her mother and trying to be responsible for herself. However, when she went outside, she found Yule holding a bag of ice cream with everything she wanted to eat. He said he had eaten too much and asked Juna to help him finish it. Juna was very happy and prepared to eat a week's worth of calories in one sitting. When Juna caught Yule looking at her face, she wondered why, so he said that her face was so dumb and funny. Then Juna cursed him for eating her food and making fun of her. Seeing all three girls were happy, Mako told Yule that he wasn't as bad as she thought, and she would treat him next time. However, before she left, Yule asked if she knew anyone named Jiko Kioi. After that, the group drove back to the shrine, and Yule saw GE's reply, suggesting that they talk at the shrine. However, just then Mako said that Jiko Kioi no longer existed in their world, so forget about it. Episode 12. Everyone was sitting in the car and feeling very excited because they were about to go to the famous Inari shrine at night. After a while, they arrived, and the scenery there made everyone impressed and amazed. Suddenly, Mako spoke to Yule about his warning earlier. The scene shifted to a few minutes earlier where Mako had said, "This is for your own good, just forget the name Jik, because it no longer exists in this world." But Yule still insisted on knowing what happened to that name. Mako emphasized that he shouldn't pay too much attention to it, or else he wouldn't be able to achieve his dreams. Yule couldn't stop thinking about it, and the unease in his heart grew stronger. He looked seriously at Mao, and then the whole group went further inside. The dark atmosphere made Juna and Ah feel quite scared. Suddenly, GE joked, "Let's play a scary game." But Juna immediately got angry. "This is a sacred place, don't make such jokes." Of course, GE was just joking. She then explained her plan. "Everyone will go to the top of the mountain, where there are 2 paths. The 5 of us will split into 2 groups, and whoever gets to the top first wins, because we all have to go to the top to pray anyway." Yule immediately decided to go with GE. Hearing that, the other 2 sisters were extremely surprised, and Yule was thinking to himself that he didn't just want to know about this because he was curious, but he also felt very uneasy when he heard the name. He had to find out why he felt that way. He wanted to know what the relationship between GE and Jiko was. At this point, the 2 girls looked at Yule and GE with suspicion, and Mako decided not to go with the group because she had to stay rested to drive everyone home. If she didn't rest, she might have trouble driving. GE agreed with this idea, but Yule thought differently, that Mako definitely had some plan so that he couldn't talk to GE. The 2 groups seemed to have been decided when suddenly Ah came to hug Yule's arm, insisting that she wanted to go with him. Juna angrily yelled, "Why does everyone want to go with Yule?" The 2 sisters kept fighting over each other, which annoyed Juna, who was afraid that Yule would do something perverted to them. Therefore, Juna decided to be the substitute to protect her 2 sisters. In the end, all 3 girls were fighting over one boy. To determine the winner, the 3 sisters decided to play rock, paper, scissors, and whoever won would get to go with Yule. A few minutes later, Ah was seen going with GE, which meant that Juna had won the bet. To break the silence, the eldest sister teased Ah with a few questions. "It seems that you like Yule, right? I saw the way you looked at him when he took me, it was different." Ah's face turned red, denying, saying that it wasn't like that at all. And Mako didn't go back to the car to rest. She just followed GE to protect her friend. GE kept asking, saying that Ah really liked Yule. This made her confused, and she backed away, and then accidentally stepped on a loose rock and fell over the railing. The eldest sister very quickly grabbed Ah's hand. Meanwhile, Yule and Juna went together. Both were unhappy with the result of rock, paper, scissors. Juna snapped, Don't think that I'm walking with you because I like you. You're actually a very good person, you do housework, and you always help us when we need it. But even so, you're still a weirdo and a pervert, and I'll never leave my two sisters alone with you. Yule was surprised and thought, are you crazy? What are you talking about? Just then, a sound came from the bushes, which frightened Juna. Yule felt relieved because it was just a cat, but when he saw Juna clinging to his shirt, he didn't understand. She apologized and promised to let go, but in reality she continued to cling to him for the rest of the way. Yule asked why Juna decided to come to the shrine at night and yet was so scared. Juna explained that she had always wanted to come to the Inari shrine because it was said to be the most sacred place, closest to the gods. Because here, the deceased in Shinto become gods. Yule realized that she probably wanted to see her mother again. Juna thought that Yule would laugh at her for not believing in these things, but Yule revealed that since he had moved to the Amagami shrine, his life had been full of strange things, and now he was starting to believe that there might be a god watching him. Right then, Yule's phone rang, scaring Juna. Yule answered the call and found out that GE had fallen from the fence into a ravine, so the two of them quickly turned back to look for her. Mako and Ah just arrived and only found Ah with minor injuries. When asked about GE, Ah explained that she had tried to save her from falling, but she was the one who fell down there. Ah cried, blaming herself for causing the disaster. Juna hugged her younger sister to comfort her. Meanwhile, Mako stood up and went towards the fence. Yule asked what she was planning to do. Mako insisted that she had to go look for GE. Yule recognized the worry on Mako's face, so he grabbed Mako's shoulder and said, I can't let you go, because you're acting very strange. Yule decided to go instead and told Juna to watch over Mao, and that they would be fine. Yule started going down the forest path, following the path. Yule blamed himself for starting the argument to get to the top with GE. He called out GE's name but only got an answer from a strange mask. Yule wondered what was going on and ran towards it. Suddenly, he was surrounded by flower petals, and when he opened his eyes, he didn't understand where he was and why he was in the body of a high school boy. However, when he kept asking, memories of his childhood began to return, and he thought he was back at the orphanage. On the way, he met a girl with black hair, waving her hands and making strange moves. When he approached, she said that she didn't know where she was. Yule asked her what her name was, and she replied Jiko. Yule didn't wonder and suggested that they go to the police station, but at this time Jiko's stomach was growling with hunger. That's why Yule took her to buy snacks. He gave her money to pay, but when Jiko looked at the money and looked confused, Yule wondered if she had ever used money before. After that, they sat down to eat by the river. Jiko didn't know how to open it by herself and waited for Yule to feed her. Yule complained, saying, You're so useless if you keep relying on other people. Jiko took a bite and said, This is the most delicious food I've ever eaten. Yule wondered how it could be like that. Jiko explained that she didn't remember what she had eaten because there was always someone else cooking and feeding her. Yule thought she must be a rich young lady, so he advised her, You should choose what you like, it will definitely taste better. Hearing that, Jiko told Yule, I want to continue learning from you what I don't know. Then, they went to the playground in the park. Yule was surprised to see that Jiko was like someone who had fallen from the sky, not knowing how to do anything. Then, he realized that she looked a lot like GE, but he couldn't remember who GE was. When it got late, Yule suggested that they should go to the police station because Jiko's parents must be worried. However, Jiko said that it was not necessary because her protectors had arrived. At this moment, Yule noticed some men wearing black suits, who called Jiko a young lady. Yule thought that everything was fine now and began to leave. But he heard Jiko say to the men, Don't do that. The men explained that her mother had asked them to bring her back at any cost, to make her attend additional classes to replace the ones she had missed. She could only follow the path that her mother had planned for her from now on. When Jiko agreed, Yule remembered the conversations with GE, where he realized that GE also couldn't decide for herself because she was always worried about the future. While taking a walk, GE had praised Yule, It's so good that you always come at the right time to save us. Yule realized the similarities, so he quickly grabbed Jiko's hand, whom he thought was actually GE, and they ran away together. Yule hoped that he would be a link that would completely change GE's pre-programmed life. Episode 13. In the previous episode, Yule and Jiko ran away from the bodyguards. Now, they began to search for the two people around the area, but they couldn't find them because they were hiding behind a wooden box by the road. They sat down at a rest stop. Yule said that the bodyguards were very useless when searching for Jiko. Instead of showing worry like a family, they said very unpleasant things. Yule continued to explain that at the orphanage, when Mahai was angry, she looked very scary. At this point, he remembered that he was late for class, and Mahai might think that he was missing. Yule was worried, so he had to call Mahai, which made Jiko laugh. Yule realized that she was laughing, but she denied it, saying that if she laughed, she would get scolded. Yule thought that maybe Jiko's parents were very strict. Then he comforted her not to worry, and that he would take her to a very beautiful place, where she could see the whole city, and she could say anything she wanted, including the thoughts in her heart. When they arrived, Jiko began to express her anger at her mother, who never gave her freedom. She shouted, "I want to eat the food I like, wear cute clothes, meet friends, and go out to play. I want to do everything I want." When talking about this, Jiko was very emotional. Yule listened and felt surprised, realizing that freedom was like that for her. Although she was free, Jiko still didn't understand what she needed to do next. Yule offered to take her, but she stopped and said that she couldn't go with him. Yule understood and comforted her that she was free, and not to worry anymore. He promised that if she got lost again, he would find her and help her. After hearing these words, Jiko felt happy and thanked him. Finally, the story shifted to the present, where Yule said that he found her again when he saw Ge. All of his memories came flooding back, and he was happy that he had found her safely. After that, Yule shyly looked away because he saw her boobs right in front of him. While Yule was buttoning up her clothes, Ge woke up and saw his actions. He quickly explained that it was just a misunderstanding. Yule then sent a message to the other three, informing them that Ge had been found and was unharmed. This made all three of them feel relieved. On the way back, Yule admitted that he was very scared that he wouldn't be able to find her, and Ge also apologized for making him worry. She said that a few hours ago, Yule had said he had something important to say, and now he could say it. Yule revealed that he had found her wallet and checked her driver's license, and saw that her name was Jik instead of Ge. This made him remember when he was little, he had met a little girl named Jik. He asked if she was that girl, and Ge confirmed that she was. Yule continued, "I also remembered something else. When I was little, I was very afraid of being discovered for wetting the bed. That's why I hid the dirty mattress in the storage room, and it caused a very bad smell. I was discovered and scolded by Mahai a lot. Those were unhappy memories that I didn't want to remember, but now they came back." Hearing this, Ge was very surprised and told him that he shouldn't tell her that story. Yule said that if he knew her big secret, then she also needed to know his secret. When he saw her again, he was very surprised when she said that she had changed her name to Ge, and he was happy to know that she could change, and wasn't the sad girl she was before. Then a scene from the past was shown where Jiko's mother said she was no longer her daughter because she didn't listen to her. She said that if she didn't follow the rules of the family, she would have no right to live in this house, and that she wasn't worthy of the family name. After that, Jiko was left at the Amagami shrine where she was taken in by Juna and Ah's mother. From then on, Jiko changed her name to Ge Amagami. Juna's mother said that Ge could live the way she wanted and go anywhere she wanted. From then on, Ge had two more younger sisters. She often taught them the games she learned from Yule, especially the game of blowing bubbles that would stick to their faces. In the present, Ge was very happy. She thanked him because her new life was thanks to him, and if it wasn't for him, she might have never been as happy as she was now. When they met the other three, they were very happy to see that Ge was okay. And Yule told Mao, "Jiko no longer exists in this world, and I'm very happy that Ge is happy." Mako was visibly annoyed, even though she had warned him. He still kept talking to Ge about that. Yule confirmed that he would always be by Ge's side, and no matter what difficulties she faced, he would always help. He also said many encouraging words, making Mako say that he was acting like Ge's boyfriend. Finally, they returned home and felt satisfied with an amazing night. They decided to go to sleep early because they had to go to school the next day. It was very surprising to see that Ge was going to bed so early. Actually, she was very embarrassed to face Yule. Then she started jumping up and down on the bed. She said that she had fallen in love with Yule, and then she kissed her pillow as if Yule was lying there. On June 15th, the scorching summer had arrived. Yule was studying in his room and felt very hot. Ge suggested buying a fan for him, which Yule thought was a very good idea. However, immediately after that, he was confused and started yelling when Ge was in his room. He questioned her that she couldn't just be in his room so casually. Ge explained that she had only come to study and wouldn't bother him. Yule disagreed and advised her to go back to her room, but she teased him, saying that he only cared about her and wasn't focusing on his studies. Then she started making suggestive gestures. Yul felt embarrassed and rejected her actions. After that, Ge asked him to be her model, because she needed to draw a portrait for a school assignment. Yul agreed but asked her to be quiet and not bother him too much while he was studying. Yul realized that after that night, Ge often harassed him. Sometimes she would drag him out shopping, and other times she would bother him while he was working. He wondered if Ge liked him. Yul also remembered what she had said before when Ah had interviewed her, and she had called him a good guy. Yul felt excited when thinking about his feelings for her, but he decided that he shouldn't overthink this, because Ge was now part of his family. And Ge had completed the sketch of Yul, and she even added a heart to it for emphasis. Right then, Juna and Ah came to look for her. The two shouted, questioning, "You two definitely did something inappropriate in the room." But Ge quickly explained that Yul was studying and she was just quietly doing her homework. She asked the two of them to be quiet. Of course, Yul didn't hear anything because he had already covered his ears. Juna felt relieved but still suspicious. The two looked at Ge's drawing and noticed a picture of Yul with a heart drawn beneath it. This made them think that Ge was dating Yul. She only replied, "There's nothing between us." When Juna and Ah were about to leave, Ge joked that she would marry Yul and inherit the shrine. The other two were surprised and objected vehemently. Hearing the loud noise, Yul turned around and asked what they were doing there, and they only replied, "Talking and sharing private thoughts amongst us three sisters." Episode 14. The story begins with the teacher giving each student a small piece of paper and explaining that they could write their wishes on it to send to the Tanabata festival. The teacher told everyone that after writing their wishes, they should hand them to Ah. In the classroom, the students started talking excitedly, asking each other about their wishes. Ah stood watching this scene and found it very interesting. A girl came up and asked what Ah had wished for. Ah smiled and replied that because she was a shrine maiden, her dream was to be able to fulfill everyone's wishes. At that moment, Karen, a wealthy girl who often opposed Ah, stepped forward. She commented that Ah seemed to be acting too relaxed. The two quickly got into an argument. Meanwhile, the other girls were curious and asked Karen about her wish. Because they thought Karen already had everything, wealth, beauty, and she was very good at sports. Karen felt happy when she was praised, and finally revealed that what she wished for was to win the upcoming race. Ah wasn't surprised by this because she had already guessed it. In her heart, Ah vowed that she must defeat Karen this time. After that, another student announced that the marathon would last 2 days, and Ah also had to prepare for the Tanabata festival, where she would participate in a traditional dance. However, Ah confidently asserted that she didn't have any problems with this because her family always supported her. Ah also showed everyone her wish, in which she had written many things, to get good grades, win the race, and complete her work well. The two sisters were very happy when they heard about her wishes, and said that they would come to cheer her on in the race. However, Ah reminded them that the race was quite far away, and they might not make it in time. Juna confidently asserted that they would come to cheer her on, and even said that Yul would also come. Hearing that, Ah teased Yul for coming to see her hot body in her sportswear, making his face turn red, and he angrily left. On June 29th, Ah received news that the marathon had been postponed due to heavy rain. The race was rescheduled to July 7th, the same day as the Tanabata festival. This made Ah very worried, while Karen mocked her, saying that if she lost, Ah could use the excuse that she was busy preparing for the festival. Ah angrily left. After that, she told her two sisters everything. The two sisters were very worried, thinking that they wouldn't be able to make it in time to cheer Ah on. In anger, Ah told the two sisters that they should focus on the festival, and that she would take care of everything else herself. Finally, Ah wrote another wish on her ribbon, that she hoped to have the courage to face all challenges and achieve all her goals. She also advised her sisters to work their hardest, or else their 3 wishes wouldn't reach the gods. However, the two sisters were not very happy with this attitude. Even so, Ah tried to comfort them, saying that they didn't need to worry about her because she would definitely win, and then the 3 of them would celebrate together. She left to practice while the two sisters commented that Ah was growing up. Yul also reassured them that Ah would manage everything. On July 6th, Ah prepared for the sports race, while her two sisters cheered her on from afar, telling her to do her best. Ah also encouraged her sisters to perform well at the festival. Ge, with her enthusiasm, teased Ah that she was so lucky because she would be with Yul. Hearing that, Ah imagined romantic scenes with the two of them, making Ge and Juna burst out laughing. The 3 sisters then wished each other good luck. went to the race venue while the two sisters went to prepare for the festival. The race began, but didn't have a good start because she was quite worried. This was a 10 kilometers marathon, and felt pressured that she had to shoulder everything alone. Karen, who was competing with commented that if continued at this pace, she would never be able to defeat her. Karen's family appeared, all very beautiful, and they cheered Karen on, which made her confident and perform better. Meanwhile, felt disappointed that Yule hadn't come to cheer her on. Right then, Yumiko appeared, cheering on with enthusiasm, saying that definitely had to win. Yumiko revealed that Yule had called her earlier to tell her about the situation and asked her to come cheer her on. Yumiko agreed and came to encourage Yumiko also called Yule, who quickly appeared and held up his phone so that Ge and Juna could cheer on via video. Even her grandfather joined in the cheering. Seeing the support from everyone, regained her spirits and tried her best in the remaining race. At the end of the race, had won. At the same time, the two sisters' performance at the festival was also a resounding success. On the train home, Yule and Yumiko talked about A's victory. Yumiko commented that if it wasn't for everyone's encouragement, might not have won. Yule thanked Yumiko and shared that the Tanabata festival at Takiai Shrine was still based on the old calendar, which was why could attend both the festival and the race fully. Yumiko teased Yule for his promise to always help everyone, which made him embarrassed, and he asked her not to imitate him. Even so, Yumiko still praised Yule for being such an amazing person who always cared about everyone. Yule also felt relieved that the festival had gone well. Yumiko didn't say anything else and left midway, leaving Yule confused. After that, thanked Yule, saying that thanks to him, one of her wishes had come true. Yule modestly replied that it was thanks to her own efforts more than anything else. The two of them left happily, leaving behind a sense of success. The next day, Yule was reading the newspaper and realized that today's date was still June 28th, just like before. He didn't understand what was happening and started to wonder if what he had just experienced was just a dream, or if it was reality. He thought back to all the events and felt like he might be stuck in a time loop. While thinking, Yule tied another ribbon to the tree, hoping to find an answer. Suddenly, appeared, looking tired and saying she felt dizzy. Yule realized that not only him, but had also been pulled back to June 28th. He asked if she remembered the events of July 7th, and confirmed that she remembered everything, and that she felt relieved because before that, she thought she was losing her mind. Yule and discussed their current situation. Yule predicted that it would rain in 2 days, and that A's race schedule might be postponed again. He also believed that they would have to relive this time until July 7th. Yule encouraged saying that she could easily win again if he was by her side. The two of them completed all the tasks within this time period, and won the race again. But when the new day came, instead of July 8th, both of them were once again pulled back to June 28th. Both Yule and were shocked and confused by this time loop. Yule thought that before, strange things only happened to him, but now was also dragged into it. He determined that maybe they needed to do something to break the loop, and played an important role in both major events, the festival and the sports race. However, was worried that they would have to live in this loop forever. Yule reassured her that they would find a way out, and he began to think of a solution. Seeing how determined Yule was excited and said that she found the situation interesting. Yule was surprised by A's attitude and wondered if this girl was really strange. After that, practiced yoga to keep in shape. Yule wondered why she was doing that, and explained that yoga would help her maintain her slim figure. She even illustrated, doing all sorts of movements that made Yule so confused that his nose bled. After that, started practicing typing with her eyes closed, and Yule noticed that she was doing very well. Continued to share that she believed that if they prayed sincerely together at the shrine, and helped to convey everyone's prayers to the gods, everything would be fine. Yule was surprised and asked if she would continue to skip the Tanabata festival because she had to focus on sports. Seemed very surprised by Yule's question, but he continued to advise her to pay more attention to the festival. Although was participating in the marathon, Yule explained that this wasn't the only marathon, and that there were still other opportunities later on. Finally agreed to participate in the Tanabata festival and felt relieved to know that Yule supported her decision. The two continued to chat happily, ending the episode in harmony and understanding.